Good day everyone. Today I want to talk about something that lives inside all of us at one point or another. It's quiet sometimes, but when it shows up it can paralyze us. It whispers in our ears, "You're not good enough, you might fail, you'll be judged." That thing is fear. Fear is a natural emotion, but it's not a life sentence. Fear exists to protect us from danger, but in our modern world, it often becomes a wall, keeping us from opportunities, growth, love, and greatness. We can respect fear without letting it rule our lives. The first step to killing the fear is identifying its source. What are you truly afraid of? Is it rejection, disappointment, loss? Most of the time, we're not afraid of the thing itself. We're afraid of the feeling we might experience if things don't go our way. Your comfort zone might feel safe, but it's also your cage. Every dream, every goal, every breakthrough lives outside your comfort zone. The longer you stay in the safe zone, the longer fear controls your story. The antidote to fear is action. Even a tiny step forward is a declaration of war against fear. Speak up, show up, try, fail. Try again. Fear only wins when we don't move and when you fail. And yes, sometimes you will. That's not the end. Failure isn't a sign that you should stop. It's proof that you tried, and every time you try, you learn. Every stumble is one step closer to success. Because at the end of the day, life is meant to be lived, not feared. Don't let fear keep you in a job you hate, in a life you don't love, or in a version of yourself that doesn't reflect your truth. Kill the fear and you unlock the freedom to become who you were meant to be. So I challenge you today. Speak the truth you've been afraid to say. Start the project you've been too scared to begin. Be bold. Be brave. Kill the fear. Fear is something we all experience at different moments in our lives. It is a natural emotion, a built and part of our human wiring. It serves a purpose. It helps us recognize danger, prepares us for threats, and urges us to respond in ways that protect us. It is the reason our ancestors survived harsh environments and wild predators. It alerts us when something feels off or when a situation demands caution. In that sense, fear is useful. It is a signal, not an enemy. But somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing fear as a signal and started treating it like a wall. Instead of listening to what fear is trying to teach us, we let it dictate our actions, or worse, stop us from acting at all. We let fear take the wheel and steer us away from dreams, from possibilities, from growth. Fear convinces us that it's safer to stay in one place, to stay quiet, to play small. It tells us not to try, not to ask, not to risk, because we might lose. We might get hurt, we might fail, and because we listen to it, we shrink, we miss out, we settle. Fear becomes a trap when we believe that the way we feel now is the way we will always feel. When we believe that this anxious heart, this shaky voice, this hesitating mind is permanent. But the truth is, fear is not a life sentence. It is not a chain that binds us forever. It is a visitor, and like all emotions, it can be understood, challenged, and even released. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. At first there is fear. Fear of falling, fear of scraping knees, fear of getting it wrong. But eventually, with time, with courage, with practice, the fear fades and confidence takes its place. That is the nature of fear. It comes with the unfamiliar, the uncertain, the unknown. But once we face it, once we push through it, it begins to lose its power. The problem is not that we feel fear. The problem is that we build our lives around it. We let fear dictate our decisions, and over time we start believing that this is who we are. We stop applying for jobs because we fear rejection. We don't speak our minds because we fear judgment. We stay in toxic environments because we fear change. We don't chase our dreams because we fear failure. In the end, it's not fear that ruins our lives, it's our decision to obey it without question. But fear can be overcome. It can be faced and even used. It can be turned into fuel. Every time we do something that scares us, we grow a little stronger. Every time we step out in spite of fear, we weaken its grip. Fear says you can't, and courage replies, I will try anyway. That is how fear is killed, not in one moment, but in many small, brave choices made again and again. Life is too short to be lived in fear, too precious to be spent hiding, too valuable to be dictated by an emotion that comes and goes like the weather. You were not born to be ruled by fear. You were born to explore, to express, to create, to connect, to live fully and freely. So when fear shows up, do not deny it, but do not bow to it either. Feel it, acknowledge it, learn from it, and then keep moving, because fear is a part of life, but it is not your whole life. It is a moment, not your story. It is natural, but it is not final. Fear is not a life sentence. You get to choose what happens next. The first step to killing the fear is identifying its source. You cannot fight what you cannot see, and you cannot overcome what you refuse to acknowledge. Often we experience fear as a vague, uncomfortable feeling, a tightness in our chest or a heaviness in our stomach. We know something is holding us back, but we don't always take the time to sit with it and ask the most important question: why? Why are we afraid? What exactly are we afraid of? Until we can answer that, we are stuck battling shadows and guessing at enemies that may not even exist. Identifying the source of fear means digging deeper than the surface emotion. It means looking beyond the immediate response and asking yourself what lies underneath. Are you afraid of trying something new because you think you might fail, or are you afraid that failure will make you look weak? Are you scared of speaking up in a meeting because you are unsure of your idea, or because you are afraid of being judged? Is your fear about the thing itself or the meaning you've attached to it? Fear rarely exists in isolation. It is connected to past experiences, to childhood lessons, to personal beliefs that we may not even be fully aware of. This is why reflection is so powerful. When you pause and really listen to your fear without running from it or pushing it away, you begin to understand it. You can ask yourself questions that go beneath the fear itself. What does this fear remind me of? When was the first time I felt this way? Whose voice does this fear sound like? Is it even mine? Sometimes the fear we carry is inherited, passed down from people who lived with their own fears and unknowingly handed them to us. A parent who always worried about money, a teacher who told us we weren't good enough, a friend who mocked our dreams. Those voices can settle into our minds and become the background noise of our lives, influencing our choices without us realizing it. Once you identify where the fear comes from, you take away some of its power. You no longer see it as this massive, unstoppable force. You begin to see it as something with a shape, a history, and a name. And anything that can be named can be faced. It is like walking into a dark room and turning on the light. The shapes that looked so terrifying in the shadows are often far less scary when fully seen. You may even discover that the fear is outdated, that it belonged to a version of you who no longer exists. A younger you, a less experienced you, but not the person you are now. Identifying the source of fear also allows you to respond with wisdom rather than panic. When you know what you are really afraid of, you can challenge the story behind it. You can ask, is this fear based on fact or just a feeling? Has this fear come true before, or am I just assuming the worst? What evidence do I have that things will go wrong, and what evidence do I have that things might go right? These questions open up space for possibility. They interrupt the fear spiral and allow room for courage to grow. Fear wants to stay hidden because it knows that exposure weakens it. But when you bring it into the light, when you examine it with curiosity and compassion, you begin to loosen its grip. You realize that most fears are not death sentences, but illusions that shrink when you face them directly. By identifying the source of your fear, you take the first and most essential step toward freedom. Because once you know what you are dealing with, you can begin to do the work to overcome it. You can begin to separate truth from lies, risk from reality, and slowly but surely you can begin to take your power back. Your comfort zone might feel safe, but it's also your cage. It is the space where everything feels familiar, predictable, and manageable. It is the routine you know, the habits you have mastered, the environment you have grown used to. Inside your comfort zone, you are rarely challenged and rarely threatened. You feel secure and in control, and that is exactly why it becomes so tempting to stay there. But the truth is, comfort can be deceiving. What feels like safety can sometimes be stagnation. What feels like peace can actually be fear in disguise, and what feels like home can slowly turn into a prison. The comfort zone is not just a place, it is a mindset. It is the mental space where you convince yourself that where you are is good enough even if it is not fulfilling. It is where you stay in a job you do not love because it pays the bills and you know what to expect. It is where you keep quiet in conversations because speaking up might lead to conflict or judgment. It is where you avoid trying new things because you might not be good at them and failure feels too uncomfortable. Over time, this space becomes smaller and smaller until you are not just comfortable but confined. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in the stretch, in the struggle, in the unfamiliar. Every time you push yourself beyond what you know, you give yourself a chance to become something more. But stepping outside your comfort zone is hard because it means letting go of control. It means not knowing how things will turn out. It means risking rejection, embarrassment, and failure. But it also means opening the door to learning, confidence, and transformation. Without stepping into the unknown, you never discover your potential. You never know what you are capable of because you never give yourself the chance to find out. The cage of the comfort zone is not built overnight. It is built through small decisions repeated over time. The decision to say no when you wanted to say yes. The decision to wait when you wanted to act. The decision to stay silent when your voice mattered. Each of these decisions feels minor in the moment, but together they create a pattern. A life that is safe but not satisfying. A path that is easy but not empowering. A routine that is stable but not alive. It is not that the comfort zone is always bad. There are times when we need rest, recovery, and stability. There are seasons when comfort helps us heal and recharge. But it should be a place you visit, not a place where you live. Because when comfort becomes your home, it starts to cost you things. It costs you dreams that require risk. It costs you relationships that demand vulnerability. It costs you creativity which thrives on uncertainty. It costs you the thrill of discovering something new about yourself or the world around you. Breaking out of your comfort zone does not mean taking reckless leaps. It means choosing courage in small, intentional ways. It means saying yes to something that excites and scares you at the same time. It means asking the question, raising your hand, starting the project, applying for the opportunity. It means being willing to be a beginner, to feel awkward, to not have all the answers. Because that is where life really begins, outside the familiar, outside the safe, outside the cage. You are not meant to stay the same. You were meant to evolve, to stretch, to soar. And that only happens when you are willing to leave behind what is comfortable for what is possible. So take a step, even a small one. Push against the walls of your comfort zone, and you will find that they are not as solid as they once seemed. They are made of fear, not fact. And when you walk beyond them, you will realize the world is far bigger and far more beautiful than the cage you left behind. The antidote to fear is action. When we feel fear, our natural instinct is often to freeze or retreat. We wait for the fear to go away before we do the thing we want to do. We tell ourselves that once we feel braver, more prepared, more confident, then we will take the leap. But what we often fail to realize is that confidence does not come before action, it comes after. The fear we carry will not dissolve by thinking about it or avoiding it. It begins to lose its grip only when we move forward in spite of it. Action is what transforms fear from a controlling force into a challenge we are strong enough to face. Fear thrives in stillness. It grows louder when we hesitate, when we overthink, when we sit with all the worst case scenarios playing over and over in our minds. We imagine everything that could go wrong, and the fear becomes bigger than the thing itself. But the moment we take even the smallest step, that fear begins to shrink. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. What seemed terrifying in the shadows often looks far less intimidating once we bring it into the open. When we act, we send a message to ourselves and to our fear. We say, I see you, but you will not stop me. I feel this fear, but I will not let it choose for me. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates courage. The first step is the hardest, but once it is taken, something shifts. We realize we are more capable than we thought. We see that the world does not collapse when we try. We learn that failure, while uncomfortable, is not fatal. And with each step forward, we become less afraid, not because the fear disappears, but because we become stronger in the face of it. Every action is a vote for the person we want to be. Every moment of courage adds up to a life that is no longer ruled by fear. Taking action does not have to mean making huge, drastic changes. Sometimes the most powerful steps are the smallest ones. Having a difficult conversation, saying yes to an opportunity, signing up for something new, asking for help, standing up for yourself, trying even when you are unsure of the outcome. These small acts of bravery create new patterns in the brain. They teach us to associate fear with growth instead of paralysis. They teach us that we can survive discomfort and come out the other side wiser and more resilient. There will never be a perfect moment where all fear disappears and all clarity arrives. If you are waiting for the fear to vanish, you might wait forever. The truth is, action often needs to come first. It is what clears the fog and builds the bridge between who you are now and who you want to become. Each time you act in the face of fear, you reclaim your power. You become the kind of person who does not let fear make their choices. You become the kind of person who lives fully instead of safely. You do not need to be fearless to act. You just need to be willing. Willing to try, willing to fail, willing to feel uncomfortable. Fear is a part of being human, but it does not have to be the author of your story. You get to write your own ending, and it starts with a single action. A decision, a moment where you say, I will not let fear hold me back. I will move forward, I will take the step, because the antidote to fear is not waiting, thinking, or wishing. The antidote to fear is action. And when you fail, and yes, sometimes you will, that's not the end. It might feel like the end in the moment. It might feel like everything you worked for, everything you hoped for came crashing down. It might feel like your effort was wasted, like you were foolish for even trying, like maybe you are not cut out for what you set out to do. But failure is not a stop sign. It is not a closed door with no other options. It is not the final word on your ability, your worth, or your future. Failure is a moment, not a conclusion. It is a part of the journey, not the end of the road. Everyone fails. It does not matter how talented, prepared, or passionate you are. At some point, you will fall short. You will try something and it will not go as planned. You will give your best and it still might not be enough the first time, and that is okay. Because failure is one of the greatest teachers you will ever have. It shows you what does not work so you can find out what does. It reveals your weaknesses so you can grow stronger. It humbles you so you stay grounded, and it tests your commitment so you find out how badly you really want it. The most successful people in the world have failed more times than most people have even tried. They have faced rejection, ridicule, setbacks, and loss. What separates them from others is not that they never failed, but that they did not stop when they did. They saw failure not as a reflection of their potential, but as a step in their process. They learned from it, adapted, and moved forward with even greater focus. Every time they failed, they chose to begin again. And every time they began again, they got better. Failure also forces you to confront fear. It challenges the idea that something terrible will happen if you do not succeed. And once you go through it, once you survive it, you realize that it is not as powerful as you thought. You realize that you are still standing, still breathing, still capable of continuing, and in that realization you gain confidence. You start to see failure not as something to fear, but as something to use. When you allow failure to be a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block, you free yourself. You stop living in fear of making mistakes, and you start embracing the growth that comes from them. You stop expecting perfection and start valuing progress. You start seeing yourself not as someone who wins or loses, but as someone who evolves. And that mindset is what builds resilience. That mindset is what keeps you going when others give up. You also become an example to others. When people see you fail and get back up, they learn from your courage. They see what it means to keep going even when it is hard. You inspire them not by your perfection, but by your perseverance. You give them permission to try and to fail too. And in doing so, you create a space where growth is more important than image and where effort matters more than outcome. So when you fail, remember this: it is not the end. It is a chapter in your story, not the whole book. It is a moment of learning, not a mark of defeat. You can start again, you can rise again, you can try again. Each time you do, you become stronger, wiser, and more prepared. Failure does not define you. What defines you is what you do next. Keep going, keep showing up, keep believing in what you are capable of, because the only true failure is the one you let stop you. Everything else is part of the path to becoming who you are meant to be. Because at the end of the day, life is meant to be lived, not feared. We are not here to simply survive each day with our heads down and our hearts locked away. We are not here to walk a straight line, never stepping off the path or coloring outside the lines. We are not meant to spend our precious time hiding from pain, from uncertainty, from discomfort, or from the unknown. Life was not given to us so we could wrap ourselves in caution and miss all the beauty and mess and magic it has to offer. Life is meant to be felt, fully embraced, boldly pursued, and deeply lived. Fear will always be there, whispering warnings, convincing us to play small, to play safe, to stay where it is familiar. But life is not found in safety alone. It is found in taking chances, in saying yes to things that scare us, and in showing up even when we do not have all the answers. It is found in trying and falling, in getting back up again. It is found in late night talks, in unexpected adventures, in honest mistakes, and in moments of vulnerability that crack us open and let light in. Life happens when we step beyond the edge of what we know and dare to chase what matters to us, even when we are not sure how it will turn out. To truly live is to take ownership of our time, our choices, and our energy. It means choosing connection over isolation and courage over comfort. It means speaking our truth even if our voice shakes, and following our dreams even if the road is long and unclear. It means allowing ourselves to laugh loudly, love deeply, cry openly, and feel everything in between. It means realizing that joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and loss are all part of the experience, and none of them should be feared. They are not signs of weakness, they are signs that we are alive, that we are growing, and that we are participating fully in the human journey. We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid pain, to avoid risk, to avoid looking foolish or getting hurt. But in doing so, we often avoid life itself. We stay in our routines, in our boxes, in our stories that tell us we are not ready or not enough. We postpone our dreams until tomorrow, a tomorrow that may never come. And slowly, without noticing, we let fear shape the life we live. We let it make decisions for us. We let it silence our voice and shrink our vision. And all the while, life is happening around us, calling us to engage, calling us to wake up, calling us to live. Living fully does not mean having no fear. It means choosing to act anyway. It means recognizing that the richness of life lies in its uncertainty, in its highs and lows, in its unpredictability. It means realizing that the moments that scare us the most often lead to the experiences that shape us the most. Growth never happens in comfort. Purpose is never found in hiding. And the kind of life that makes your heart beat faster and your soul feel alive does not come from playing it safe. So ask yourself, what would you do if you were not afraid? What would you try? Who would you become? Where would you go? Because at the end of the day, this is your life and it is not a rehearsal. You do not get to relive today. You do not get to redo this year. The moments you are afraid to reach for are the same moments that could change everything. Do not let fear be louder than your desire to live. Do not let it be the reason you hold back, sit out, or settle. Life is meant to be lived, not feared. And the sooner you start living, the more of it you get to experience with open arms and a courageous heart. So take the leap, speak the truth, chase the dream, try, even when you might fail, love, even when it might hurt, and live as if fear was never part of the equation. Because you were not born to simply exist, you were born to live fully, bravely, and unapologetically in the end. It's not the fears you avoided that you'll remember, it's the moments you embraced, the risks you took, the life you chose to live. Let this be the start of that life, not tomorrow, not someday, but now.